Hello everyone, welcome to another video. So in this one I wanted to talk about gratitude. It's something that makes sense in theory, and a lot of people do experience a lot of appreciation for the things they do. But when you have a practice where you deliberately make an effort to look at the things in your life, and rather than seeing them with resentment or feelings of them not being good enough, starting to look at the positive aspect of what it is you like about them. And when you find these kinds of things, whether it is something that you have as a blessing in your life, something that's going well for you, but maybe you don't stop to think about how beautiful it is, or it might be something that's more difficult that you're struggling with, and you feel like you'd like it to end, or you wish it wouldn't happen, or you feel like you've been victimized, as if something bad's going on for you and it's unfair. And it's completely reasonable to have these feelings, but the feelings of frustration end up making you feel more and more powerless, and you feel like whatever you do, and no matter how hard you try, nothing ever goes right, and that you can't get out of things. So if you have the attitude of being grateful, no matter what happens, you can step into the most challenging of situations, and you find, through the power of your perception, you find some kind of positive way of seeing it. And when you have that kind of positive perception, you can then say, wow, thank you for the lesson. Thank you for the opportunity to say help someone, to potentially help yourself heal and grow and learn, to be a better healer of the world, a better helper, to be a better activist, to be a more compassionate person. And even the mistakes that seem like failures, let's say in the vegan activism sense, you're talking to people and you try and explain veganism and it doesn't go through, and the person laughs and you don't feel like you've made any difference. But it might be that opportunity that you had to speak to that person showed you where you need to practice more in your ability to communicate. So it might be that you realize that although you know a lot about the industries and you know a lot about veganism and you have all this passion, it doesn't come through in a way that's easy for the people to understand. And it's a different skill within itself. There's one thing to know the information, or there's one thing to feel the passion, but then there's another skill to say, well, how do I translate this passion and this feeling of this is the right thing to do, or this information, how do I package it in a way that's understandable for people? And one of the things I always experienced was, when I talk to people, I try and use the metaphors and the stories and the analogies that they understand. So you almost have to get to know where their mind is at. So if they're passionate about gardening, you can use a metaphor that's similar to gardening. You go, well, how would you feel if I came and pulled up your plants and put rat poison over everything and, weed killer and everything? How would you feel if all your strawberry plants were suddenly weed killered? And they would go, oh yeah, it wouldn't feel so good. And I go, well, that's how the animals feel. Except it's not broccoli. It's there's bunny rabbits and cats and cows and different animals, and the pet industry and everything. And there's a lot of translation that's needed, so that you take the core idea of this is wrong and this is what's happening into something that touches people in a way that actually moves them into action. And it might be making comparisons to films or historical events or different things, and there's a lot of opportunities to practice. So whether it's online or face-to-face, you speak to people and you see whether or not what you're saying is resonating within them. And so the more you practice, the more you improve. So even though most of the opportunities you get might feel like you've not made any difference, it might be that their reaction at that time didn't sink in, but it might be that the seeds you planted made a difference. So you can have gratitude for the opportunity, knowing that the world has more of a potential to wake up to certain things, to more information and to more healthy, sustainable ways of life, thanks to the things that I shared. And because I'm having this opportunity to share, it means that even if one person of all the people I've spoken to resonates with that message, that one person could go on to do amazing things because of that information. So it's important to say, well, actually, there's a lot of reasons to feel a lot of gratitude and a lot of appreciation for whatever happens. You could have a health challenge, a health lesson, obstacle experience that seemingly paralyzes you from certain experiences. So you might not be able to, you might be more bedridden, so you might not be able to go out and do the things you normally do. You might normally do running, and you might normally be very busy tidying things and working very hard, and it might be just what you need in your life where you're at to say stop. I'm being forced to stop, rather than saying, oh no, I wish I could go out and run, I wish I could go out and do all the things, I wish I could be working hard like I always do. Maybe all the working hasn't been bringing you happiness and fulfillment, and it's time for you to take another way of life into consideration. And when you start to consider different paths, you can see it as an opportunity. You can say, well, I can't do anything, so there must be something I can be grateful for in this. There must be an opportunity. And for a lot of people who are struggling with health challenges, you have an opportunity to slow down and actually go within and look at where really are you. A lot of the time people use busyness and work and productivity to really run away from and hide from a lot of their emotions and their inner thoughts and the fears and the struggles and the memories and the emotional sort of burdens. And it's really a procrastination, all this busyness that the society is generally adopted as being a good thing. People are very highly praised for being productive, but the more kind of feminine energy, not necessarily woman female thing, but the feminine energy of being more intuitive and going within and being empathetic and understanding and slowing down and reflecting and working with a more compassionate place, rather than the kind of fiery action all the time place. Having that balance and going down into the deeper inner places, you can say, I care too much about what people think about me, but I'd never noticed it because I was always busy pleasing people. But now that I'm stepping back from it, I'm getting messages from people who are saying, come on, we expect you to do that. I'm actually seeing that my life was a bit of a lie, where I thought that I was doing something nice and everything was working well, but now I see that there was something a bit deeper in it, and it wasn't necessarily for my benefit, and it wasn't making me happy. And so you start to notice things more and more. So a lot of these health challenges that people experience become these great opportunities to look at something that they'd never looked before, and they never would have looked at before because they were just so busy. So the gratitude comes usually at the end, where you go, oh, now I'm healed. I realize that experience of being bedridden for a while allowed me to see some things that I really needed to see, and now thanks to those experiences I can step back into a more productive, busy life, but with more power and more control and more freedom, because I'm able to not act through the habits and the routines that I've been trained into, that the society expects of me, but I can now start to create my own reality consciously based on what I actually want to experience and based on the things that I really believe in, rather than the things that I've just always done and continuing those patterns. So the dramatic challenges that come to people, whether they're health related or whether they're financial challenges, difficulties with relationships, you have an opportunity to stop and really be honest with yourself and really look at yourself and say, oh, where am I? And a lot of people are very scared to ask those questions. And I've always enjoyed these questions, but the deeper you go, the more it becomes a little bit scary, where you go, oh, why do I have this habit of constantly checking a phone, for example? Why do I need to do that? What happens when I stop doing it? Suddenly feelings of, hang on, maybe I feel lonely. Why do I feel lonely when I'm surrounded by people? Why do I need necessarily a phone to soothe me from some feeling? This feeling of loneliness or emptiness or lack. And sometimes it's once you've noticed that, you go, well, it's not necessarily that the phone is bad or the social media is bad, it's that I'm using it to run away from something that I need to heal. So we have a great opportunity every time something kind of goes wrong in our lives, which is why I think one of the most helpful feelings we can cultivate, just to sort of have this as a gratitude mode on tap, where we can just press that button in our mind and say, okay, we're going to switch to the gratitude and say, okay, whatever's happening now, this is a beautiful opportunity to grow and to help myself and to help the world and to help the beings I love and care about, and to do something for the vegan world, to the animals who really would appreciate our voice and our focus on the healing of this faulty perception that thinks that slavery and suffering and death for taste, for pleasure and for convenience, for these very trivial things, that we're willing to sacrifice those kinds of things, those very deep principles, just for something as simple as taste. When we start to look at that, we can build a more beautiful world. So as much as it's very helpful to have gratitude cultivated, so that when these big challenges come, you are able to get through it with a sort of positive mental attitude, the way to cultivate that feeling and that kind of mode for the big things is by looking at the smallest things and saying, what is it within this moment that I can find gratitude for? And it might be that in every moment there's something you can really pull out. And if you start to live in this way where you go, where is the gratitude in this? And you could be eating a meal and there's plenty of opportunities. You can say, wow, there's a farmer who's grown this, or I've grown this, or literally the energy of the sun and the Mother Earth has combined into this beautiful union that forms, the nourishment that goes in my body, that my body can process. And I was able to cook it, or someone's cooked it for me, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to have an abundance of food. I've got enough food to eat. I've got preferably something tasty that I enjoy, if I've chosen that. And once you have that feeling, you go, wow, I'm eating this food and it's a miracle. That all these particles combine together to become this thing that's dense enough to go through my digestive system and process into the energy that that gives my body nourishment and lets it feel full of energy. And it also could be something as simple as having clean water. Obviously, when you start to travel or look around in the world, you realize that not everyone has the gift of clean water. Not everyone necessarily has access to a warm, cozy home with shelter. And having those things, you can go outside and feel the cold, but when I feel the cold, I feel that gratitude knowing that there is a warm place I can return to. And then at the same time, the contrast and having that beautiful feeling of the cold wind or the rain and the natural elements, which are really balancing and healing for the body. I go, wow, this is really nourishing for me. And the beautiful thing about going out into sort of more harsh weather when it's the winter months, or when it's raining or snowing, or if you're in a particularly warm climate or something, you can really feel that, I can go home and have air conditioning, or I can go home and have a warm, cozy fire. or I can have a warm cup of tea, and the contrast gives you that beautiful appreciation, knowing that you've always got that sanctuary to return to, and knowing you have that sanctuary, not just within the physical home, but having that ability to have gratitude and ability to be at peace regardless of what happens in the world, gives you this beautiful feeling of safety, knowing that I can go into challenging situations. I might be doing some kind of activism, I might be doing something that's very busy and tiring, something that's challenging, developing a new skill, learning something new. But I can always just take a moment and come back to that presence, the peacefulness, and I can have that moment and I can just rest and relax and be myself, and realize that it's always my choice. I don't have to continue doing anything that I don't want to do. And if the thing that I'm doing begins to become tedious and boring and the passion disappears, I can come back to that sanctuary and say, it's okay, Michael. You can stop and you can do something else. There's plenty of other fun things we can do. And if you feel like doing it again, that's okay. But if you don't, that's also okay. And it's having that relationship with yourself where you say, I appreciate you. I appreciate you to yourself. I appreciate myself for always doing my best, and for for being honest enough to live the life that I want to live, rather than living by the advertising and the dictates of the culture, by the brainwashing of the school system. And I appreciate myself for being able to really step into a world so outside the norm that I'm considered crazy by most people. But regardless of that opinion of being crazy, I'm still able to shine and enjoy my life and not care. And I'm grateful that I have had the courage. I know it wasn't necessarily a big decision to say, I'm going to be a crazy vegan activist that goes around and travels. I'm going to learn Japanese and be the English guy in Japan doing things, and all these different kind of adventures I've been on. I just appreciate myself for having the courage to go for it. And I go, well, I could have not chosen that, and I could have done what everyone told me to do. And I know I wouldn't have felt as peaceful and as happy as I do now if I'd have chosen the easier options. So thanks to my courage, these moments now are more joyful. And isn't that a wonderful thing? And I can say that even the things that I've done that I've not liked, that I felt like have been more of a waste of time, there's a lot of gratitude I can find for those as well. Because thanks to those unpleasant experiences, thanks to those things that I did that didn't really feel right, that I should have stopped but I didn't, thanks to those experiences, now I can say, no more. I do not want to do this anymore. That was an interesting experience, and now I know that I don't want it anymore. And I've grown and I've learned, and never again. And when you make a mistake and you hurt someone, you can have gratitude, because you can say, well, thanks to this being, they allowed me the opportunity to make this mistake and do something, and I know that doing that thing didn't make me feel good. So thanks to this being who took one for the team, they allowed me to realize that I will never do that again, because it doesn't feel right. And so we can forgive ourselves really beautifully when we look at our mistakes and we say, okay, I did something that wasn't loving, but I wouldn't have known it wasn't loving unless I'd have tried it out. So I say to all the people who have made many mistakes and have that feeling of guilt in relation to whatever it is, have some gratitude for yourself and forgive yourself, knowing that thanks to those experiences you'll never do the same kind of thing again. and you'll be able to teach people who are making similar kinds of mistakes and show them that actually it doesn't feel so good to do certain things. And a lot of what I've done with the vegan world has been to say, I have eaten these products and bought these products and justified it. And it didn't feel good. It didn't sit right in me. And I knew that there had to be another way. And I asked that question, and the answer came, and I gave it a try, and now I feel much better. And I forgive myself for not knowing better, for not questioning it sooner. But it's okay, because now I can teach people who are in the same kind of experience, whether they've not made the connections yet, or whether they're just beginning to make the connections and they're scared of what will happen. Maybe I'll lose all my friends, and maybe my life will get worse, and maybe my health will decline, and maybe everything will go wrong, and I'll run out of money because of all these organic green powders that I think I might need to buy, and all these worries. And people can really stress themselves out over these things. And when you have gone through every part of that experience, you become the beacon that says, I went through the same thing, I experienced the same thing, and I lived through it so much, and it didn't feel right, just like how you're experiencing that it doesn't feel right. And I knew there needed to be a change, and I looked for that change, and I did my best to make the change happen, and I did it. And at the beginning there were challenges and there were obstacles, and that was fun, and I enjoyed it. And it wasn't as scary as I thought. And then you can say, and after that I felt much better, and I began to make new connections, and I began to speak to people, and people began to resonate with the things that I was passionate about. And as I looked more deeply into this issue, I began to realize that it was a very, very, very important thing that I made this decision. And I began to realize that it was not just good for the animals, it was good for the environment, it was good for my health, it was good for the state of humanity in general, it was good for the spiritual aspect of life, of being more peaceful and congruent and happy. And I realized that the benefits were just more and more and more and more, and I just felt so good. And now I've made loads of vegan friends, and I live a really beautiful vegan life, and everything's really great. And you can do that too, but you don't have to. You can just continue feeling bad. I dare you. And the gratitude that I have, and the peace that I have in the vegan message, is because I really know I've lived it for quite a while, and I've really lived all the different aspects, and I've met a lot of vegans and spoken to a lot of people. And I know that this kind of lifestyle and this way of life, combined with a practice of peace and kindness and compassion, living in every aspect of your life, I know that it works. And I know that the feelings that I have of peace and congruency, it's what everyone's searching for. And what I've cultivated, I know that the world is desperate for, and the world eventually will find. Everyone will seek for it in many forms. People may look for this kind of peace and happiness and feelings of compassion through products and things and stuff and money and all these things, but humans are capable of procrastinating. They can try all these different things, and they can prolong their own suffering for as long as they want. But there is a limit to how much suffering beings can experience. You can really put yourself into some challenging situations, whether it's through, eating lots of meat and dairy and things, which is going to cause health challenges, because these things aren't really designed for the human body, and they don't really allow us to thrive. And you can procrastinate through going through those cycles. You can have operations, and you can have drugs, and you can really procrastinate around these things. You can medicate your own feelings, caffeine and alcohols and things, that the feelings that are telling you that your lifestyle and your way of life isn't really congruent with who you are and what you believe in. These feelings of there must be another way and there must be something else, they're going to keep coming up stronger and stronger every time, and it's going to keep getting stronger. And you're going to find that even though you think you can endure a lot of suffering, there is a limit, and every person gets to that limit where they go, enough is enough. And that moment of enough is inevitable in everyone. So the trust I have in the world being vegan is, it is inevitable that everyone will make the connection that there must be another way, there must be a way of peace. And in that peace it goes, well, peace to myself and peace to others. And is it peace to do the things they do in those industries? And when anyone gets to that point, they go, no, it isn't. And it is inevitable that everyone will find that moment where they say, no, it isn't. And I dare you, how many thousands of years do you want to wait? And obviously the animals would rather you do it sooner, but in the end, everyone will make that connection. Because it is the connection of love. And love is the only real thing here. And all the fear and all the anger and the selfishness of my taste buds are more important than someone else's life, these kinds of things, their days are numbered. These belief systems they're crumbling faster and faster, and they will not last. So and I have loads of love for people who still eat meat and do these things. I really understand where people are at, but the beliefs of slavery and suffering and pain and torture and lying and false advertising and all these kinds of things, and the propaganda, these concepts in themselves, the people who have been brainwashed into them, it's not their fault because they've really been tricked. And they, very loving beings have been tricked into a lot of systems that, they've been hacked. People's minds have been hacked by the propaganda. So, peace and love, to the minds that have been hacked. But the beliefs themselves, they will crumble and they will end. And it is inevitable. And I'm very grateful for that. So I have lots of peace knowing that the world is vegan already. People just haven't realised it yet. They will realise it soon. It just comes with more honesty. And every being will get to a point where they'll realise that how I'm living isn't right, and there must be another way. And very steadily people reach that moment of finding a vegan way of life that says being kind to myself, being kind to the planet, being kind to animals and all the sentient beings, and living with love means to be vegan. And obviously the definition can get very watered down, but really it's being mindful and being loving. And that looks like different things in different periods, I'd say. Now it's become very, very challenging to be 100% pure with everything we do. Not necessarily just in the vegan sense, but in the sense where a lot of things are very environmentally damaging. There's plastic being used for everything, which doesn't biodegrade in the way that, say, paper would. And in this particular society, where everyone's become very consumer-minded and materialistic, it becomes difficult to be 100% congruent with that kind of perfection. So we have to have compassion for ourselves, knowing that we've stepped into a very a very broken society that's full of a lot of lies and a lot of disinformation that's tricked us into dismissing and not caring about things that we would otherwise care about. People generally, in terms of the materialistic sense, people generally would rather have the thing, that the buzz of the buying the thing, than go without it and feel like, oh yeah, I'm a good person saving the planet. And it's not to say we should go without things that we want, but ultimately people have been tricked into thinking that more things will bring them more happiness. And people are looking for more happiness, and they're very entitled to want the more happiness, because if you want happiness, you're going to go for it, and you deserve to go for it, and you deserve to have all that happiness. But when you say, I want happiness, and your mind's been corrupted to such a place where you say, I want happiness, therefore, Happy Meal, okay, I'll go to the Happy Meal place. And literally minds have just been misdirected. The energy can flow into, I feel like I want more happiness in my life, and you can go, and I'll just go to the park and dance and sing and chat with everyone and have fun, play some music and do things that I love. But people go, no, what I love is to eat the burgers. The burgers in the shop that tells me it will make me happy. Bless everyone. You know, it's not our fault we've been tricked like this. And the propaganda and the brainwashing goes deep. It goes deeper than you realise. And sometimes you end up stepping back and seeing your mind and your thoughts that you thought were yours weren't really yours. They were just the voice of someone else in an advert or in a school, maybe your parents. And to get back to the gratitude conversation, I feel very grateful that I've been able to look within and try and find the voice that is my own, rather than the voice that was my parents and the voice that was the schools and the teachers and the television shows and the films and the radio shows and the voice of someone else who I thought had more of an authority over my own voice, you know. So you dumb down your own voice, and I feel grateful that I've allowed that voice to come out, and you get to experience it, so that's fun. Yeah. So find the gratitude for everything, knowing that it's helping you get to the next place that will bring you more of what you really want, you know. And sometimes finding out that requires you to look at what you thought you wanted, but really you don't need. So for anyone who's struggling, have gratitude knowing that you're just on the edge of figuring out that something doesn't work, so you might as well get rid of it. And once you get rid of it, then you'll feel better. And then when you feel better, that's good. So just kind of imagine the future version of it. And know that really what you're going through is just the beginning part of that big relief that you've let go of a thing that you didn't need. I know these things are going to get more and more abstract, but I know that there's something within what I'm saying that's very helpful to people. People's lives, I think, are going to be more and more mirrored in terms of people are going to have the reflection of what they believe in and what they think is important shown to them very vividly. It's like a mirror is being kind of taken up, you know, against you. It's not the kind of mirrors that the world uses where you see the physical body and you go, oh, look at this, my physical body looks good. You say, here is the mirror into my heart, the mirror into my soul kind of thing. And that's the deeper place to go, hang on, I'm very scared of certain things, and I'm not living with joy and gratitude in relation to everything. And I could be, because we all could be, and there are some people who do that, and it's a practice, but it's you know, there are people who are genuinely really, really peaceful and happy in every situation, and they've cultivated that, and now's the time where the challenges come and people get a big reflection where, you know, when someone does something horrible to you, how do you react? Do you get angry and you throw something and you turn it into a big drama? Or do you gracefully look at your own mind and say, well, what is it about me that's getting triggered by this? And come back into the presence. So as the mirror comes, it's just being gentle with yourself, going, you know, there's some I've still got much to learn, but that's okay, you know, it's not my fault. If I was perfect, I'd be perfect, and that would be fun, but here I am now where I'm at. I know I've just gone on a bit of a ramble, but I just want to remind everyone to have this practice of gratitude in relation to everything. So if you can just make a list or just think about it every day, just go, hang on, what is it that I'm actually grateful for? What is it that I should be more grateful for? Because everything changes. Everything changes, and gratitude is how we keep the things that are important to us. When you really have that gratitude for it, it's eternal, it's within you forever. But when you don't really care, you're getting something that's nice. When you don't care, everything will change. you know, certain people in your life or certain experiences, certain levels of abundance or money and things, you know, certain freedoms to be able to do certain things, they change, especially in a rocky society. You know, it's time to say, what is it that I want to keep in my life? You know, what do I really value, and how can I make the most out of those things? Because you know, certain things that we think, you know, it's just there. It's like your freedom. You know, you think you value freedom, but are you making the most of that freedom that you have? You know, are you really making the most of it? You know, someone started to try and rob you of your freedom, you wouldn't feel so good. You know, so keep your sovereignty and keep your freedom, and don't throw it away. And just, it's a bit like all the ideas of like the cookies on the internet and the websites. It's like, do you give consent for us to spy on you and take your you know, track where you know, how much you blah blah blah, what you're buying and where you've gone and what you're doing on the internet? You know, do you mind? Could you just click, you know, I accept? It's more convenient to just say yes. Otherwise, you have to fill out the thing that says I don't agree, and you know, I don't want this, I reject only essential cookies, which I always try and do. I mean, who cares? I mean, I don't know how effective that is, but it's while you have the choice to say yes and to say no, why not choose the option that takes you to freedom and takes you to sovereignty? So there's certain things that we have access to, a bit like the ability to be able to record something, to be able to make something and share it with the world is a really beautiful thing. And there are other places where people don't necessarily have the opportunity to share these kinds of messages in such a free way without as much censorship. This is being uploaded on YouTube, so I think the censorship place is out of the window a little bit, but I'll talk about what I talk about and we'll see what happens. It's fun. I hope something I've said today has resonated with you. This is it's something that I've really been thinking about and reflecting on for a really long time, and I've tried to just look at every small thing, whether it's the rain or it's, you know, whatever the thing that's going on, you know, is it warm? Is it cold? You can say, it's warm today. It's too hot. I'm dissatisfied. We can say, it's too cold today. I'm too dissatisfied. It's just right. But I hope it doesn't end. You know, and you're always dissatisfied because it's too hot, or it's too cold, or it's just right, but it's about to end. You know, tomorrow it's going to be bad. Or you could go, it's too hot. Yay, it's nice. Thank you. It's nice to have the warm, you know. Probably got to get the blood flowing. It's too cold. That's nice. Get the blood flowing, or whatever. Just make it up. You know, it's cold, you know, because, I mean, if you have the perspective that the natural elements, you know, being out in the wind or having some sunlight is really quite nourishing for the body. You know, animals go around and they deal with all these kind of climate changes, and you know, on some level they have that sort of that strength and the hardiness towards it. Same with plants. Some plants just become very good at taking different weather patterns and, you know, thriving. So if we obviously run away from all the, you know, the weather changes, for example, you know, it warms and it gets cold. If we run away from that and we stay in a cozy warm house all the time with a coat on, we'll never have the hardiness of like St. John's wort. That's feels like all year round it's just got abundant leaves. I know it does kind of get a bit crispy and stuff, but St. John's wort, if anyone knows that, we have a big one in my garden and it's just really nice. So with St. John's wort, it's just good at handling every weather pattern, and it's always just got flowers on, and it's always got big leaves, and I'm always able to put some of the leaves in my smoothie, and it's quite nice. Make tea with it, and yeah, let's be a St. John's wort plant. So, you know, you can say the porridge is too hot, but I like it. You know, the porridge is too cold and I like it. The porridge is just right and I like it. And the just rightness might end but it doesn't matter because it will be too hot, and I like that too. I'm just grateful that there even is porridge. And when I was studying, I think it was like Stoicism books quite a long time ago, there's this idea of, there's the glass half empty and then there's the glass half full. And, you can be, I'm grateful that I've got half a cup empty or half a cup full, and it doesn't matter because the fact that there's this vessel that allows me to take water, because otherwise I'd have to use my hands, and just like cup it with my hands and sort of splash it into my mouth. But the fact that there are these vessels that can allow us to put water in, and they can contain quite a good amount of water. We could put hot drinks in certain ones, we can get a mug that allows us to put hot liquids in, and it holds it with like a handle so we don't burn our hands. The fact that these vessels exist and we can buy them very cheaply everywhere, and everyone has one everywhere kind of thing, in the Western world especially. Isn't that beautiful? These drinking vessels, and we will have one, and it's like, wow, I can drink things. I don't have to cup, because I couldn't make a cup of tea in my hands. I'd need a drinking vessel to make that. I'd need some kind of thing. And it exists, and someone invented it on some level. And so I'm grateful for the drinking vessels of the world. Doesn't matter if it's full of water or empty. So yeah, hopefully these messages resonate. I think that's everything I have to say today, so thanks everyone. I'll see you in another one. Bye bye.